Hello, and welcome back to the NoScore Review Show. I'm your host, Nick Green, and I am once again joined by one of my favorite guests, Michael Bentley. Welcome back, Michael.
Hi. New haircut every episode.
Every episode. He's going to shave his head next time. When that will be, nobody knows. Today, we are reviewing Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. If you were paying attention to the YouTube channel, we had just reviewed Into the Spider-Verse. For us, it was almost a month ago now. But we're back to review the highly anticipated sequel on my end, at least. The Squeakquel. Alvin and the Chipmunks Across the Spider-Verse. It'll be a spoiler-free review for the first little bit here. I'll do an explicit spoiler warning once we want to get into our highlights and lowlights. But for now, we'll just get into our general thoughts and maybe a bit of our expectations. So, Michael, where do you want to start for how you feel about this film?
I generally am beyond impressed by the talent pool they brought in for the animation of this.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, it is honestly like the amount of time and effort that must have gone into all that, like all the fusions of styles that went into it. It's just like is genuinely just like jaw dropping, and the fact that there's like 3 or 4 scenes of like character just dialogue, which, like, not to knock, that is, there, like, especially the crowd sitting on the rooftop having all that background action. Good time. Like, there's 3 or 4 scenes where things actually like slow down, and the rest of it is just constant motion. And it's just like absolutely insane the fact that they accomplished this. Like, it's genuinely, like, I don't know how. How many years has it been since Into the Spider-Verse again?
5, just a little short of 5, because the first one came out in December of 2018. So
this feels like 10 years of work. This feels like 10 years of work that they put in.
They absolutely, like, they had a high bar to meet with the first entry, and they surpassed it, like, and then some. It's crazy. It, like, they had to have had the script already figured out, and then it's like Into the Spider-Verse goes into theaters, like, okay, keep working. We got to get this out in 5 years' time.
Like, one of my thoughts, one of my general highlights, and I'm giving you a space here if you want to bleep this or cut this out, because I'm not sure if it's going to be what you consider a spoiler. Can we talk about the fact that there is a third one? Because not a lot of people were blindsided by that.
I think, yeah. Okay, so personal preference, or not preference, but like personal awareness of it, I knew going into this it was part 1, because I think when
part 2
this movie in particular was going to be a part 1, because I don't remember how the original announcement of this movie went, but the initial trailer or like teaser or whatever that came out like mentioned, because I don't even know if Across the Spider-Verse was confirmed as like the subtitle, or if it was just Into the Spider-Verse part 1 or something, or maybe it was Across the Spider-Verse part 1 or something at the time, but it was very clearly mentioned that this movie was going to be a part 1 of 2 movies. It's still, we won't get into spoilers for it, but it still blew me away with like how things go in the movie. And I think that's just mostly because I just wanted it to keep going, and I was so invested in where it was going that, like, I had jaw dropped. I'm like, those motherfuckers. I didn't want it to end. It was still surprising on my part, but yes, this very much is. I don't think that's a spoiler at all.
Just because, like, for me, I didn't know there was going to be a number 3.
Really?
Like, I was like, I don't think I even watched the whole first trailer. I was like, okay, cool. They're doing a part 2. This is when, cool, I'll watch it then. And just ignored everything else. And I think a lot of other people had a similar experience. And I think there's a lot of that, like, rage online where it's like mostly meme, but you can tell some people are like actually upset by it. I think that it was I'm on the camp where I think it was a good decision to end it where they did, specifically because they had there's clearly so much story to cover, and
Hmm.
they're really taking their time to do it. I do think for any watch parties, um, it would be very nice if someone who respects people's time could like splice together a version of like across and beyond the Spider Verse into 1 2.5 hour movie, and not
Right.
like a 5 hour sit down to get the whole
Right.
experience.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, they definitely take their time, but I think like if you really wanted to be efficient with your story, like you probably could have cut out, cuz I also I haven't mentioned this yet, but I also just got out of my second screening of the film. I booked an IMAX ticket as soon as I got home from
Yeah.
my first screening.
Just
Um
got out. Literally, if you pan the camera a bit to the
yeah.
side, it's just like there's the IMAX.
Yeah, right behind this window over here. Um but yeah, I definitely noticed my second time around, especially, there are some things, if you wanted to be really economical with your runtime, like there's stuff that could have been trimmed for sure. Because like it's definitely a lot of style over substance with some things, with like some introductions to characters and whatnot. But I still think it works relatively well. And I mean, it will be a long like marathon in the future or whatever, but
Mhm.
I'm glad I would take that over um, like rushing storylines, or like the worst case scenario of like condensing it into one film. Um,
Like
but yeah.
there is some ups and downs. I feel
Hmm.
like there. I think they kind of repeat the scenes with Miles having problems with his parents 2 or 3 times, and I'm like, I could have gone for one. Like I get it,
Yeah.
um, but on the upside, the fact that they did give the time breathing space, you basically got the Spider Gwen mini film.
Yeah. Yeah. That we won't go into too much detail for it, but
Mhm.
like that is one of the things I liked about it. Was I loved that they gave other characters like time to breathe, and it wasn't like just a bunch of side characters like behind Miles, and that it wasn't just Miles' story. We still got a little bit of time with other characters, which was great. um, but yeah, I just to kind of wrap up our general thoughts so we can get into things a little bit deeper. um, Blown away by this film. I don't know how they managed to raise the bar yet again. This like you said, Michael, this animation team shows uh like their prowess and the whole reason the industry kind of got an upset in the first place with that first
Mhm.
film, and how
Oh,
uh like everyone's still chasing their tails for
it's
this
great. It's just
revolutionary
like
look.
I don't know what this look is called. I'm sure somebody's coined a term that we're supposed to call it now, but like
Well, I
it's
mean,
kind of
it's the Spider-Verse look for now.
yeah, it's kind of like nuts. Like I would say that's like the first Spider Verse movie was maybe a bit more like tangible. Like I'm thinking of that shot where Miles is running and like his hand touches the taxi cab, and
Mm,
like in that way the world feels more solid. But by having a more liquid world, I guess you could call it, just like the action is just so expedient because like everything's a lot softer in terms of line work and detailing in
hmm.
the backgrounds and the interactable objects, that it's just like everything can just go pew. um but yeah, no, I love like this has like taken the fact that like 5 years ago they set this style, and
Hmm.
then like the big contenders for it would be like Mitchell versus the Machine, which was the same company. They made use of that kind of, it's not even the same style, but like they kind of like mixing in like the detail lines and
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah,
making like taking squash and stretch to its absolute limits.
yeah. Totally.
Um,
Yeah.
then Puss in Boots, they did it, and it
Hmm.
looks like Teenage Ninja Turtles, the new one. They're gonna do it as well. Like
Yeah.
in the trailer, like they were like, so we're gonna put all of our focus on character animation. You can tell this because all the storefronts are just like basically crayon
Yeah.
drawings, and then
Yeah.
it's like, oh shit, like the characters in that movie gonna like fucking zoom, they're gonna zoom.
Yeah. Totally.
No, it's but they went and they raised their own bar. They were like, which is like, I don't know what's gonna happen in March. Like I don't know what comes next.
Yeah. Me too. I think and not just the animation. blew me away. Like the story they deliver as well is a very, with how bonkers crazy they go in this film, just dialing up that multiverse dial to 11 again. It's like, yeah, they had it at 11 with Into, and now it's like they found 12 with Across. And
Mhm.
but they still managed to deliver like a very cohesive story and a very compelling story.
Mhm.
Miles's journey throughout the film is like keeps you on the edge of your seat with how things are going to transpire, um, and leaves you with your jaw dropped, much like I was at the end of the movie. And the like all the references and Easter eggs, because like marketing for this film is like advertising the fact that there's like the Spider Society and stuff, and all of the different
Mhm.
Spider-Men. Um, the references and the Easter eggs don't bog it down, which is really good.
Mhm.
Um, it could have easily just been a reference fest the whole time, but I think we still get a lot of like important plot details and character moments in like particularly in the Spider Society moments
Yeah.
of the film. Um, but yeah, it was amazing. I just love the attention to detail, like the amount of synergy going on, because it's not just the
Yeah.
animation team that's putting the legwork in. It's like the music department, the like the sound department overall. The performances are cast so well with each distinct character, and it's like each character has their own like theme. They have all their own motifs that are like delivered throughout the film consistently to give us a clear image of how that character works. They make choices that make sense for their character.
Mhm.
And it all just really delivers a very cohesive package of distinct, memorable characters that are able to stand out in a crowd of hundreds of Spider-Men. So I think mission accomplished for sure on that. Um, but yeah, I absolutely recommend this film if you liked the first film. If you're a diehard Spider-Man fan, you need to go see this film if you haven't already. There you go. Oh, nice. You got like a, what is that?
It's a collectible ticket.
Oh, no way. That's so cool. Did you like did you just buy your ticket in person at the theater and that's how you got it? Or what?
No, they were just handing them out as you went in.
Oh, what? Oh, man. Dang.
It was
That's
that.
very cool though.
And then I think like so this is the cover portion, and then
Yeah,
like the back will have different Spider-Man.
that's very cool.
Yeah, that was
But yeah,
cool.
I strongly recommend it if you're into animation at all. This is the movie to see how just how they raise the bar on themselves again. And if you're a diehard Spider-Man fan, you got to go see it.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, with that, unless you have anything else, Michael, I think this is where we can get into full spoiler territory for this film. So if you don't want to know anything going into Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, then click off now, pause the video, come back once you've seen it to get our thoughts on the film in depth. So yeah, highlights and lowlights time, Michael. Where would you like to
I
start? Let's actually. I'm gonna interrupt
yeah.
you from my
Oh,
question. I'm asking
oh,
you. I'm gonna answer it for you. I want to continue on our little talk that we started about Gwen. I
mhm.
love the fact that they gave her basically a like there was a whole prologue in the film
Yeah.
that just deals with her, which is great. I loved that so
Mhm.
much.
No, like the drumming sequence was like genuinely amazing, and how like it timed to the animation
Hmm.
was like next level. And I love that like it did, and this is like a real nitpick. It did bother me that like in like Miles's world, you couldn't tell she was a different animation style, but like in her own world, it's like there's something very different going on here with
Yeah,
like the.
totally.
But I love like the bleeding backgrounds that like
Yeah,
the more emotional things get.
yeah,
It's it felt very Gendy Tartakovsky esque, like the whole like remove all the background noise so you can focus on just the characters.
yeah. It's very
Oh,
simple color palettes, very straightforward. It's like the whatever the characters are going through and feeling in that scene distilled down to its essence, which is really cool, and it really makes
mhm,
those scenes stand out from the rest of the world,
mhm,
which is already so like beautiful. I love Gwen's theme as well, her music theme,
Yeah.
while she's swinging around and stuff. Um, and just the way it like gives us a little bit more insight into her character as well. Like it expands on that brief montage sequence of how she got her powers and stuff, right? It gives
Mhm.
us a little bit more background on that. Her relationship with her dad was really good, and I love that they touch back on that too. It's not just a prologue setup; like it
Mhm.
actually has some meaning later on too, which is really great. It gives her a nice resolution within the film, which is really good. It's
Mhm.
one of the things that helps keep this film maybe not grounded is the right word, but it helps so that this middle chapter in a trilogy doesn't feel like just that.
Yeah.
There's stuff to find in this film that you won't like be able to pick up on from either other movie, which is
Mhm.
great. Another small highlight I love the design. I mean, it's just going to be a lot of design praise with this film
Yeah.
because it's just such a beautiful film. But I love the Renaissance
Yeah.
looking vulture. That was so good. That was such a cool surprise too. I wasn't expecting like a an anomaly vulture.
Well, like what was great about it was that like they kept to like their own rules, and like they went and like how like a lot all the spider people who are
Hmm.
more comic book like have their thwips and pops and like comic book lines, and then Vulture has like the sketch lines that come in with like figure 79 will pop in and for a
Yeah.
second, and he's like it's this whole different thing.
Hmm.
And it's really showing how how much you can play in animation
Yeah.
when you kind of just like take the rails off. It's not just like, oh, this is Vulture. He's as if he was from the 1870s, but he matches everyone else in appearance. It's
Yeah.
like this is how his world and universe operates, and I
Hmm.
like the fact that they're like recognized like, but it's an animated world. It's like a hand drawn. It's a no. It was really great. It was a
It's
really
the
good film.
advantage I think this team has over the others, where the whole premise of the movies they've
Mhm.
like worked on for the Spider-Man films anyway, the multiverse just allows you like the multiverse and animation like go hand in hand so well that like you can really take those like guardrails off like you said and like
Mhm.
even like break down the walls that you as an animator have built up over the years of like no they don't have to be different but similar like they can be as different as we need them to be or want them to be
Mhm.
right and I mean, like, especially in this instance where Vulture stood out so much compared to Gwen's world, too, which was really
Mhm.
nice. Um, yeah, that was a fantastic intro. Uh, and it was a great setup for Miguel and Jess as
Yeah.
well. That was, I mean, this was a great starter set piece, too, to set the tone of the film
Yeah,
as well.
when is Jess gonna have that baby? Because like
Yeah.
she was pretty pregnant when she first showed up, and then there were like 4 or 6 months later, and she was still pretty pregnant,
Yeah.
unless that was kid number two or something.
Yeah, well, even in my second viewing, I was trying to pay attention to that, but I didn't pick up on it. If she was in fact uh still pregnant when like Miles gets into the picture,
Yeah.
or if she had delivered the baby already, I can't quite tell. I'll have to pay attention again in the
Um.
subsequent rewatches, but yeah, it was a great intro. I love the 2099 design. I love the
Yeah.
webs look. I love the
The
like
glowing webs.
the
Yeah.
synths like theme for him as well. It's so good, man. I already
Hmm.
loved the like design. The 2099 suit was like one of the suits I wore the most in the PS4 game just cuz it looks so cool.
Hmm.
Um but yeah, that was a fantastic intro sequence and then we get to jump into Miles world again. Um, a lot of the humor works really well in this film. It's like it had me
Hmm.
laughing out loud a lot of the time. A lot of spots
Oh yeah, no,
delivery is really good.
like that like convenience store section with Spot. Who did
Yeah,
the voice acting for him again?
that was Jason Schwartzman.
He's fucking incredible. It's like it's so
Yeah,
great.
yeah,
No, he did. He's such. He was like. like the progression of him going from like,
slapstick villain of the week, as
yeah,
Miles calls him, right? To
and it's
this
like,
horrifying, like, deity almost, this like
yeah.
existential, like co- cosmic horror entity almost.
And I like that they had like a midpoint. I like that. Like I thought it was going to be like when they did the futuristic reconstruction of him, like creating the portal and like he puts his finger in like the black goo. I
Hmm.
thought, okay, now he's gonna be a bad guy. But I like that he went from like being like a schlub,
Yeah,
and then there's like a midpoint where like he's like powerful enough to basically ignore like 3 or 4 Spider-Man, but
yeah,
he's still like the Indian Spider-Man is like, you trying to eat pear of me? He's like, no, no, it's not like this. It's not like that.
yeah.
He's like
Oh, I
trying to
love chai tea. No. Yeah,
no, it was
that
I love
trackable
that.
progression for that villain as well. He's very good.
Like everyone else, I love Spider-Man India. He's such a
Yeah,
great time. He's
yeah,
such a big bundle of joy and like
yeah.
energy, and I love it.
I think one kind of not, it's kind of a low light. I just It's more of an observation actually. Just with
Mm-hmm.
that kind of middle section when they're in um what is it? Is it Mubhattan? What is it?
Mumbai Hatton or something like
Yeah, Mumbai Hatton or something. Um that, like, we get two brand new Spider-Man intros very close to
that.
each
Mm-hmm.
other. Which, like, I noticed the second time around because you get Spider-Man India's intro and then Spider-Punk's
Mm-hmm.
intro like very close after that. They're both very well done and very like excellently executed stylistically. But in terms of like the pacing a little bit, it's a little weird because like you have that um like exhilarating like chase sequence and like ramp up to get to the collider, but then you take a
Mm-hmm.
break really quick to introduce two new Spider-Man. It maybe could have had like a little bit more fine tweaking and like spacing out maybe a little bit, but I
Mm-hmm.
still think it really worked uh overall. And I absolutely loved oh, what was his name? Hobie?
Yeah, Hobie.
Yeah, he was very good. I loved the part he played in the overall story too. Like, back when I said characters making choices that make sense to them, like he's just pure
Mm-hmm.
chaos. So he like really throws a wrench into the whole Spider Society thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's very good. Another quick thing while I'm on the topic of Spider Punk, it's kind of, again, not so much a low light, but a question that might just need answering with rewatches. When he leaves Spider Society, if you remember, Michael,
Yeah,
it looks like he tosses his watch
yeah, he does.
away right before he leaves,
Yeah.
but then later on he delivers his watch to Gwen in her universe.
See, that's the thing. When they're walking, and Miles is talking to him about like, oh, I want to join this up. I want to join other universes, and he says, well,
Yeah.
just do that on your own. And then Miles replies, well, I need a watch for that. And then Hobie says, why don't you just build your own? And then
Okay.
the one he delivers to Gwen is like
Like
all
a
cobbled together, and it's like
right, right.
British
It
themed.
wasn't the like, yeah, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
and then
I couldn't
also
remember if it was just that way already that he
no,
styled his, or if it was okay. So
because
he
also
built his own.
also the portal that the British watch, the British watch, or the punk watch, I guess,
Yeah, yeah,
opens,
yeah.
like isn't the comic bubbles. It's like it's
Right.
his theme. It's all the
Yeah, okay, okay.
newspapers and
Right. Yeah.
Union Jack colors.
Just needed a little bit of clarification on that because that was something I
Um,
noticed. Cool.
yeah, no.
Uh
For me, I do unfortunately have a low light,
okay.
um,
Yeah.
and that is I don't quite know if I agree that the Spider Society would be like that. I can see Miguel O'Hara being like
Mhm.
that, but I don't quite know. It's just because the way Spider-Man is he's always. I know they have the with great power comes great responsibility, but the moral direction of Spider-Man in 99% of universes, especially Peter B. Parker, is always like find the way to save the most amount of people possible,
Mhm.
and it just feels so out of place for me that Gwen and Peter would have, and then also Penny and Spider-Man Noir and Peter Porker, that they all signed off on this idea of we know that Miles's dad is going to die, and we're fine with that because that's the way the universe. Like I feel that the Spider-Man that I know would have gone like fuck the way the universe works. We'll find a way around it. They would have had like every Peter Parker working on a way around this web thing, and then like Miles, we're gonna put your dad in stasis for like however long we need to, and then he'll be safe. And I understand that's the core conflict of the film, and it
Hmm.
gave us that really incredible chase scene of
Yeah.
the million Spider-Men,
Yeah.
especially the really fucking goofy shot of them all on the rocket. Um,
Yeah.
I'm glad for what it gave us, but I don't know if I can agree that that number of Spider-Man would agree to that. I don't know if we're going to get Spider-Man Civil War or something when a bunch of them start questioning.
Yeah.
But the fact that that large a number of them reached that conclusion and agreed to it,
Yeah.
it bothers me. It bothers me.
I I think the way I go with it, from my understanding, in terms of like the core group, I think they um like demonstrated their understanding of it pretty well, and I think I can get on board with the fact that they would sign on because of that whole mantra of
Mhm.
like save the most amount of people you can. And they were like, just like, hey man, if that's how this whole thing works, this is like bigger than all of us, so this is just how we kind of have to play along when we have to.
Mhm.
um then yeah, I believe that. But then as when it gets bigger to the whole Spider Society, I could see like whether they actually write it in there to actually explain it very well is a different thing. But like I can see, because Gwen says like a lot of these guys are like day players or whatever, right?
Yeah.
They're not like permanent members. So I imagine like nowhere near that amount of them actually are fully filled in on
Mhm.
what's going on or how this whole thing works. Um, and they're just kind of called in when they maybe need some backup or whatever, or
Yeah.
like if one of them has a specialty in something, right? um and like again, also going back to like Spider-Man Noir and like Peter Porker,
Porky
like
Pigger.
yeah, like not all the Spider-Men even know what's going on, right? Like some are just in their own universes, like off on their own, right?
But my
So
counter to that is the fact that Penny and Porker and Noir, they all walk in the room when Miguel is giving this lowdown. They're all quietly surrounding him. Not all the Spider-Man, but specifically Penny. She speaks
yeah,
up to
Penny's
Miles,
there. Yeah.
and I remember Porker's also there. He's sad pig, and just like I don't vibe with that. Like I understand that this is a different universe
Hmm.
and that there is a story to follow, and in a way, this can be seen as a nitpick because I'm kind of being like, why isn't your version of Spider-Man conforming to my version? I understand that, but
Hmm.
it does bug me. If it was meant to be that not everyone was filled in, um, I would have preferred that to have been clearer, like way clearer, instead of having to be extrapolated.
Hmm.
And then I especially don't know about Gwen and especially Peter B. Parker. Peter B. Parker would be like, fuck, we're not going to let your dad die. Like, no, not in a million trillion years. We're going to find another way. Um,
Yeah, yeah, I
if
can
the
see that.
solution does end up being, oh, we'll just stop your dad from being captain in number three, I'll be like, I don't know. That they never tried that. They never tried that.
Yeah, I
But
don't know. I
maybe the implication is that if you deviate at all, if you save his life in any way, it like deconstructs everything. Maybe that's the implication.
Mhm.
Or
Yeah,
there or maybe Miguel is too afraid to try anything is the implication. Where
could
he's
be.
like, well, what if you try this and it kills a bajillion trillion people?
Hmm. Well, and I actually could see potentially them delving into Miguel's complacency a little bit more, because they do say he tried, and that's the whole reason he's doing this whole thing, is because he tried it and it went horribly wrong, right?
Mhm.
So like, to and like it would also potentially give him a little bit more dimension as well, where like
He has
he
enough
tr-
dimension.
he
He gained a lot
his
of
dimension is
dimension.
shattered. He Yeah, he tried once and then he's like, okay, well, I'm not going to try any other angles ever
Mhm.
again, because it can go horribly wrong. So if they go in that direction, I could definitely see that happening. Um, and I feel like you could probably write your way out of several situations. Like Peter B.
Yeah,
Parker's got a kid now, so he's maybe not as involved anymore. He's way more hands off again.
yeah,
Um, Gwen is really using this whole opportunity, was using this whole opportunity as a crutch to get away from her father, right? Or stay
hmm,
away from her father and avoid dealing with that confrontation. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they follow through with the rest of this. But I do appreciate, if at the expense of some of the character of Spider-Man and Peter Parker, I do appreciate their angle on this whole story of like challenging the ideals of Spider-Man,
yeah.
and seeing what that looks like a little bit, and using Miles as the linchpin through that whole thing. I still
No,
think it worked pretty well, but I
it
can definitely
is.
see where you're coming from
Yeah,
for sure.
it's most likely a questions that the writers have asked themselves. I just hope they haven't written themselves into a corner,
Yeah.
because if this all if this all like ends in number three with like easy peasy lemon squeezy, we saved your dad, and Miles now understands our from perspective, and he's now a full-time member, and we're just going to go on with the Spider-Verse team, and everyone's copacetic. I'll be decently disappointed. I expect a pretty big blowout between him and Gwen at the least. Of like, you decided it was okay for my dad to die.
So,
Thanks.
yeah, I actually want to bring up another thing, and this is something they've kind of, not that they've like put off again, but like just
Mhm.
something they keep teasing around with is the dynamic of Miles and Gwen. And we touched on this, I think, a little bit in the re-review show for Into the Spider
Yeah.
Verse. Maybe me and Shay went into it more a little bit, but the will they, won't they of Miles and Gwen still doesn't really go anywhere necessarily. I imagine it'll probably get resolved in the third film, but like considering the events of this film,
Hmm.
I would find it personally a little bit wild that they would end up together.
Yeah.
Because like even taking away all of this, I was even just thinking about this as a concept, and I understand they can build the technology and whatever to get to different multiverses whenever they want, but like that's like the long distance relationship to end all long distance
Yeah.
relationships, right? It's like why would you even entertain the idea of having a relationship with someone from a different universe, right? Like I don't know, maybe it's a suspend your disbelief a little bit, but like
Well.
bringing the events of this film back in to the fold, I find it
Yeah.
very hard to believe how they could resolve to that high of a point, right? I know they'll at the very least make amends and become friends again. And honestly, I kind of hope it just remains as that. I would love that
Mhm.
just to be a really strong friendship dynamic that they build. Um, whether that happens is we'll see. I won't hold the film, or I won't hold it against the
I
film.
won't hold the film.
I
I
won't
won't
hold the
buy the
film.
DVD. Get that away from me. I won't hold it.
Get away. um, yeah,
No, that's Miguel.
that's Miguel.
They didn't cover him being a
I
vampire
was
very
just going to
much.
touch on that. Yeah. Uh, it's
Miguel.
I mean, it's a very low priority, I think, in the grand scheme of things, a little bit, with how they're telling the story. But yeah, um,
Um, it was Miguel as a character was very back and forth, because like there was his version in the end of Spider Verse one, where
mhm.
he's like he's like a cross between like Peter B. Parker and Peter A. Parker, where he's kind of goofy, but he's doing his job, and he's totally very good. But
Yeah,
he's got that
he's
goofy
like
aspect to him.
the solemn, like brooding type, but he's in a like comedic dynamic with Lila, which I
Yeah, he
really
calls something a
appreciate.
goober. He calls it a goober.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah,
And then she's like, "Oh, but no, it's not a goober. It's a thinger." Like they have that
yeah,
they
yeah.
have that thing. But then in this movie,
They
and I
do
know
that a little bit too, especially in
they
the
do.
prologue, right?
But it feels a little bit jarring for him to pretend like when Peter's coming around with the baby and he's pretending to be brooding and holds the baby like this. Like it, it's a little bit jarring. Um,
I
but like
think that's when I think there's a switch that they flip
Mm-hmm.
in that whole encounter, in that whole chase sequence, where he's like, that switch happens once Miles breaks free of the
Yeah.
web trap, right?
Yeah.
And he like goes after him, and he's like, okay, there's no holds barred anymore. I'm gonna do
Mm-hmm.
whatever it takes to save the multiverse. So I think that's pretty clearly defined, because it's not like he well, I guess there is a couple, like, not quippy moments, but comedic moments later in the film, because like Peter B. Parker and Jess are arguing about Peter B. Parker being a
Mm-hmm.
good teacher at the end of the film, and then Miguel chimes in like, "Would you both just shut up so we can get him?" Right, like that type of
Yeah.
thing.
He's like, you're
Um,
both terrible. You're both
yeah, yeah,
terrible.
you're both
Mentors.
terrible. Um,
No,
yeah.
it's like my assumption is that we're going to see the disillusion of the Spider Society in the third one. That, or it's going to break off into two branches: those that follow Miguel and those that follow Hobie. Whereas, like, the branch that follows Miguel is more like the Time Variance Authority, where they're like,
Mhm.
everything must meet these boundaries. We can keep the universe safe. And the ones that follow Hobie is like, fuck anything being sad ever. Like,
Yeah.
if you've seen those like Goku saves memes on YouTube, they're just gonna do that. Where like at moments of like mass tragedies, no, grab the villain's hand, like, you stop that. But I guess that one thing we have to like touch on is Miles the Prowler. I almost called him Miles the Predator. That's very different. It's very different.
Where he's hunting Arnold Schwarzenegger in
Yeah.
the jungle.
But both have the vision. Both have the glow in the dark vision.
That's true. Yep.
But no, Miles the
That was a
Prowler.
pretty big reveal towards the end. Not only that he's the Prowler, but that Miles was in the wrong universe. That was a pretty big, like, oh shit moment for me.
Well, oh, I caught that when it went to the screen
Did
because
you?
it said Universe 43, and they kept saying that Miles is Universe 1610.
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah,
I I caught that on the second pass, but
yeah,
like it washed over me, and like I'd like to defend myself a little bit, because
yeah.
there is a lot in this film. This is
Yeah,
a
that's fine.
information overload sometimes, or maybe not information overload, but a cognitive overload a lot of the time. So it's like
Mhm.
there's little pop-ups coming in and out of the screen.
Yeah.
I love, because I didn't quite read it in time. This is tangential a little bit. There was a pop-up explaining hammer space when
Mhm.
in the prologue, I think,
Yeah.
when the vulture regrows his wing. And I
Yeah.
tried reading it the first time, didn't get it. I caught it the second time, and it's very funny, the
Yeah.
hammer space reference. Um, so yeah, there's a lot going on in this film. But yes, revelation that he's in the wrong universe and is now being held captive by himself
Mhm.
and his uncle.
That sounds like a Linkin Park song, "Captive by Myself." Being held
Yeah,
captive by myself.
yeah,
No, it
with
was
Uncle Aaron.
that one was a good twist. I was under the assumption that early on that when he went to that universe, that the other version of him was just like no power, whatever. Like I saw a design for a
Mm.
gauntlet, like a little
Yeah,
drawing
me
on one
too.
of his
Yeah, yeah,
things.
yeah,
So I thought like, okay, maybe he's a bit techie, but he's like a different kind of hero.
yeah,
Um, Up until the point where they reach the rooftop and look across it, and New York is fucked.
yeah,
And
yeah. It
then,
looks like Arkham City from the Batman
yeah,
games.
I am interested to know though what's going on though, because Uncle Aaron was like, I'm not the Prowler, which makes me wonder if like he passed on the mantle, or if in that universe there was never a Prowler, and then Miles's dad died, and
Yeah.
he's like, well, I'm gonna be the Prowler. Uncle Aaron, teach me some moves and
Hmm.
all that other shit. No, it was I liked it. I liked it a lot. My assumption is that Miles is just like the epitome of like unreasonable. That
Hmm.
I think in number three they're going to try and get through to him, and it's like, sure, there at least be a universe where your dad gets to live. He's like, if I can have a dad, no Miles can
Nobody
have a
gets
dad.
dads.
Like
Yeah.
I can even fucking seeing them be like, whoops, that Miles has a watch. He's gonna go around killing every
Yeah.
every
Oh
version
no.
of his
Oh,
dad.
that's so morbid. Yeah. I imagine Prowler Miles will be like the first half or so
Mhm.
of, or maybe even just like the first act of Beyond, and then we'll get into the Spot stuff in Earth 1610.
What would be interesting is if what had happened is that Spot had originally gone to Universe 42 or 43 or whatever, thinking that was Miles because of the confusion of the spider bite.
Mm,
Killed his dad because you got your fun like cross time
right.
streams, and then Miles mentioned, I gotta stop the Spot guy from killing my dad. He's like, you Spot, and then you just got like a Prowler versus Spot fight. You just see Miles like absolutely try and tear into a guy.
Yeah,
That'd be
yeah.
fun.
That would
But
be
again, no,
cool.
I fucking love the performance. I forgot this voice actor. I love the performance.
Jason Schwartzman. Yeah, he's very good.
Jason Schwartzman. He was like did an incredible job going from like a schlub who like he looked so new to the game he couldn't even like walk right.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I like that like for his first wide shot, he had like a belly and
A
like
gut.
his
Yeah,
stance
yeah, yeah.
was
Yeah.
and
I
then like
I love his design. You can see like the wireframe of his character
oh
like
yeah,
within him. That was a really cool choice.
like yeah, they were once again like playing with the sense of animation where like he's not like it makes him feel like he's not just breaking the boundaries of the world of Miles, like but the whole like genre. He's like
Yeah.
this other entity. And then I like that they have a prelude to like the fight in India gets more and more he gets more and more threatening because it starts
Hmm.
with like him struggling a little bit with the three Spider-Man, but then like he finds the collider
Yeah.
and then he like just like getting everyone out of the room.
Yeah, it's more of a
Which I,
chase than a fight before
Mhm.
he deals with them.
But I also like the fact that like there's still like this shred of humanity in him
Hmm.
when he's like, okay, you out of the room, you out of the room, you out of the room. Like he doesn't want to hurt anyone but Miles.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and then like the way he gets more threatening is just like, okay, I've had my fun, and they try and stop him with the web. He's like, think, and like he's like T pose floating towards it with
Yeah.
like, okay, we're getting into the
Well,
end
even
game
like in
now.
his last moments, he's like
Yeah,
doing a cheeky little wave as he's like floating into the
yeah.
abyss.
No, it was I love Spot. I didn't think I thought that we would wrap around back to him and like an end credit scene. Like I thought that's what he was going to be.
Hmm.
I didn't know who the villain of this all was going to be, so I was like, Spot was a really fun surprise.
Yeah. Well, I thought watching like based off the trailers, it felt like Spider-Man 2099 was going to be the main antagonist, but
Mhm.
he's kind of a middle antagonist more
Mhm.
so, secondary kind of.
Deuter
Um,
antagonist.
indeed. Um, but yeah, I really love Spot. Uh, what else? It's kind of become a little bit less of a review at this point,
Yeah.
and us just like theorizing a little bit more.
Well,
Um,
I think that's I think that's fine just because it's like it is like such an enormous like chunk to take in. Like
mhm.
that is the thing because the movie takes a breather every like three or four times. But
Which I
otherwise it's
actually
just like
loved. I
mhm,
loved the amount of just like straight up, there's a couple characters having dialogue scenes together,
mhm,
and that's all that's going on. I loved those moments, and they're kind of necessary in a film as like big scope as this is.
yeah.
Um, which so yeah, I really appreciated those moments too. It really helped flesh out those characters. Um,
Oh,
and yeah,
I guess like a low light that I don't want to miss out on. I missed the 5 man or 6 man band we had from the last time. I know they technically showed up,
yeah,
but
we'll
I
get more
missed
of them in the third film.
like I really hope so because it'd be very funny if they brought John Mulaney in just to go Miles and then all right, bye everybody.
Yeah,
That's it. That's the last line of Peter Parker.
yeah.
Um, no, I guess like the other surprising thing was that like the way they set up the end of the first movie was like Miles had literally like sat down and lied like went to lie down in his bed like 5 minutes after getting home, and
Hmm.
then Gwen shows up.
Yeah,
But in this one, it's
a couple
um
months since they've seen each other.
it's like a year and a bit.
Oh, right. Yeah, yeah. A year and 4 months or something,
Yeah.
if you count the end of Spider Verse being the starting point for that. Yeah, that's a little fuzzy. Maybe Gwen showed up quickly. I don't know. Maybe not. That's kind of
Well,
a retcon a little bit.
well, it's like one of the things is that like if you look like Spider-Man 2099, first one, second one, and the second one, he's like the first one he's like got the Spider-Man build, and the second one he's got like the fucking like bodybuilder Arnold Schwarzenegger like brick wall build, not
Hmm.
quite Kingpin brick wall, but like so that's a large man now. But
Hmm. More menacing.
a few people I saw questioning that, I'm like, you know what? I'm okay with it. I'm okay that they're not in any way limiting themselves because like they'll let it stew and they're like, okay, we don't really like this design anymore. We don't like this
Yeah.
design anymore.
Can't
Let's update it.
MCU has gone through so many iterations of different character designs. Albeit like their build doesn't change. They're
Yeah.
suddenly like super swollen from film to film. But like I think it
Uh,
grants a little bit of leeway
you made me
between
too
films.
sad, Nick, because now I miss the Iron Man Mark III. The original orange and gold suit with like its beefy shoulders and shit.
Yeah,
And then the
the
Iron Man
walking
suits have
tank.
just like taken this
They
complete
got
trajectory.
slightly more beefy towards the end of the Avengers films. Like I think Endgame was a little bit more like looked a little bit more muscular.
I don't like the thing the scale like this
The
nanotech. I don't
nanotech.
yeah I don't
I
like
don't
I want
think I don't think the Endgame suit was nanotech, was it? Maybe it
yeah it
was.
was nanotech because remember like he makes the cannons and then Peppers does the same thing and then
Right. Yeah.
yeah
Okay. Yeah, I
I
remember that now.
I miss that original Iron Man suit
It's
so
definitely
much.
beefier than the Infinity War suit and the Iron Man
Mhm.
3 suit. Iron Man 3 suit was like very mobile and very skinny.
Mhm.
Um, anyways,
Welcome to the Iron
back to
Man 3
Spider
review.
Verse. Yeah. Um, yeah. Is there anything else you wanted to mention very quickly before we start wrapping up?
Um, Donald Glover's appearance was fun. Like
That was very fun.
the introduction of like the live action scenes, I liked it. On
I think they
like
worked really well.
I'm in between on the Andrew Garfield one because like they stuck on it for a long time, which is like in the universe of me watching the movie, I'm kind of like, okay, this shot's really going on. But I understand in a grander sense, this kind of like an apology going towards the Amazing Spider-Man.
Well, I mean, I feel like that scene in particular actually works to enhance that scene that's actually
Mhm.
in the film where like you're like, "Oh yeah, that's Garfield Spider-Man." But then like you're
There's the
realizing,
dead
"Oh
Uncle
yeah,
Ben
he
meme.
also had to like endure the death of Captain Stacy, right?" Like it has
Oh
more
yeah.
weight to it than just like, reference vest."
No, I get that. Just like the shot went on, like especially the
Yep.
one on Andrew Garfield's face, like we're sitting here, we sure are sitting here on this shot specifically.
Right.
Um, but I like that. I like that it, it did really feel like a moment of Looney Tunes back in action when Donald Glover is looking at Miles, and
Yeah. Right. Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like, why do I feel like I'm in Area 52 right now?
Yeah, yeah.
That whole sequence. But no, no, it's like in terms of comments, it's just like I have gripes with it. I'm a gripey guy.
Mhm.
I like to be critical, but this is genuinely one of like the heaviest chunks of animation you will find
Yeah.
in today's world. It kind of in a sense, and I know this kind of feels like it's blowing out of proportion. Feels in a sense like how I think people watching Steamboat Willie must have felt for the first time, where it's
Right.
just like we've taken a leap.
Yeah.
Not to bog us down with like the overhanging idea of AI and all that dog shit.
Yeah.
Um, but this kind of feels like the answer to it, where it's like, oh, you can generate a bunch of images. Okay,
Yeah.
make this with your generator. You
Yeah.
fucking can.
Yeah, exactly. It so much care went into this film just on every level. It was firing on all cylinders. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it is a phenomenal film, not just a Spider-Man film. Like there's so much stuff
Mm-hmm.
to love as a diehard Spider-Man fan, but like just as a movie fan, I think there's so much to appreciate. Um, and I I'm so happy that animation is getting the love and attention it like deserves just as a filmmaking medium.
Mm-hmm.
Um, when we were kids, it was quite literally just for kids, basically. So I'm glad to see the leaps and bounds it's been taking. And yeah, I cannot recommend this film enough. It absolutely blew me
Th-
away.
this film has paid for like the next 10 years of every character animator's life.
Yeah.
Like in the
Well,
business,
hopefully.
this is just like this film is the down payment on
Yeah,
so many
yeah.
houses for people who like picked up a pencil.
This film is going like on the top of everybody's resume who worked on it.
Mhm.
And like I worked on Spider-Verse, and it's like, yeah,
There was
that's
a
all you
guy
need.
on there was a guy on Twitter who's like, "Yeah, I did like 2 lines in Spider Verse, but like this is me." He's like Gutierrez, like I play Officer Gutierrez, which I don't even remember. Like, fuck
Yeah,
you,
yeah.
like lucky for you.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a hearty recommendation from us, I would say. I think they knocked it out of the park with what they wanted to achieve with this film. They upped the ante. I really hope. I imagine they will deliver. I have pretty much nothing but confidence in the team. So I'm very excited for next March when we get to see Beyond the Spider Verse. Um, and yeah, do you think you'll rewatch it anytime soon, or are you kind of content?
I'm content. I feel like I feel like I've absorbed it. Like that is at least the good thing about it is like even though it's so dense, you can like it is still a very simple story, which is incredibly hard to do with multiverse stuff. But it's
Yeah.
essentially Miles reunites with his old friends, finds out his dad's gonna die, and his friends are like, "This needs to happen to
Hmm.
save people's lives," and then that's the point of contention.
Hmm.
And like, there's not much else you need to really remember from that. I'm glad that they weren't like, and here's like, I'm sure this was on someone's mind of just doing like a 128 cam shot of let's do this one more time and
Yeah.
just like comic books.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
It's just like for every member of the Spiders. Oh, we didn't
Oh
even fucking
God.
touch on Ben Riley. That's how dense this shit
Oh
is.
my God. Yeah.
I'm
Yes,
glad.
Dad.
I'm glad that he got tossed away. He got used like one scene too much for me.
Oh,
Um,
really?
he got used, but I'm glad that like they tossed him away. I hope Gwen tossed him back to the Spider Society, or else he kind of is doomed to like delete because she took his like
Well,
transport.
either the Spider Society or his universe, because
One
like
of the two.
otherwise, yeah. Um, just build his own watch like
Yeah,
Hobie did. Um,
I guess like one of the things is Hobie. I guess is an alternative universe Miles because he talks about using your palms for the electric powers. So my assumption
yeah,
was that he's another Miles because he knows about having to use the whole palms.
yeah. Or he's just come across like another Miles or something. That's something I was thinking about as well. Is if there's like actually other Mileses and other Gwens.
That's gonna be the end of the third
I
one.
mean, I
Is
guess
Hobie?
there is. The answer was in this film with Miles as the Prowler, right? So
Mhm.
there's
That's
got to
gonna
be
be
more.
the third film where Hobie opens a doorway as "Welcome to the Miles Society." Miles, we have to let your mom die.
The Peter
It just
Porker
never ends.
Society. That's a
That'd be
nightmare,
great.
I think.
It's me, Peter Prowler.
Oh my god.
And then
Oh
instead of like the literal like boom, it's like a fucking like trombone.
yeah.
Wow.
A slide whistle. Uh,
Uh,
all right. I think we can wrap it up there. It's a hearty
somebody.
recommendation from us. I am very excited to see what Shay's thoughts
Mhm.
are. I was really hoping they would be on this show, but they had
They're not.
prior commitments. So
They
um,
had to go to work. They had to
they had
buy
to live a
food.
life. I went and saw Spider Man twice this weekend. What do you have to say for yourself? um, all right. Do you have any plugs and or recommendations, Michael?
We have our show with Scott, the
Hmm. Hmm.
Out of Focus show, both on YouTube and a bajillion trillion podcast places.
Yep.
And I have a Patreon where I write superhero anthology stories called Save the Day. I'm really glad that I paused and did this for all those because now it seems like I don't remember anything that goes on in my own life.
The Save the Day Patreon will be in the description down below. And yeah, if you want to see our dynamic that we just had for the last hour, plus a third person, plus like even more chaos, then go check out the Out of
Plus
Focus
Peter
stuff.
Prowler.
Plus Peter Prowler. Um, cool. No recommendations or anything? other than Spider-Verse?
Genuinely, if you haven't watched it, watch Mitchell's versus the Machines. If you're don't watch Mitchell's versus don't watch Mitchell's versus the Machines if you're having a tumultuous relationship with your father.
Oh
It's
yeah,
not the
okay.
not the best time to watch it. It will make you cry.
Right.
But if you're not, you should watch it.
There you go. A second recommendation for that film. That's
Yeah.
pretty much all you need to know. Uh, yeah, I watched it over the pandemic, and I remember enjoying it enough. So yeah, if you have Netflix and you're looking for something animated, something family friendly to watch, that's definitely
Something Family Guy.
yeah, something Family Guy. Peter Griffin shows up actually. Um, cool. You can find me wherever you're listening to or watching this episode of the No Score Review Show. I recently, if you haven't watched the first episode of the No Score re-review show, we re-reviewed Into the Spider-Verse, this sequel's predecessor. Michael was on that show, and Shay was as well. You can go check that out. I also have reviews up for Star Wars Vision Season 2, where Michael also joined me, and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Michael also recently watched that. Do you want to do a little stinger review quick? Michael's
Yeah, I
thoughts?
would. I would, and I've decided on calling it this. I would call it the after party of the MCU. It feels like a nice, solid celebration of everything that made the MCU great. Which honestly feels weird to say right now because of how commercialized it is. But like genuinely, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is like a really nice bookend where like it could stop here and I would be satisfied.
Yeah, yeah, I would hardly agree with that. Um, as far as upcoming reviews, we've got a lot of summer blockbusters coming up. I unfortunately, I think, have to walk back my promise of reviews for Yellow Jackets season 2 and Ted Lasso season 3. I just don't have the scheduling time for it, and I think it's kind of well past its prime for review talk as of now, anyway. But maybe a review show down the line will be out for those in the years coming. But as far as summer blockbusters coming up, stay tuned. I might be doing a review for the new Transformers movie. Wes Anderson's new film, Asteroid City, is coming out. Jason Schwartzman is the lead in that. And we've got The Flash and Indiana Jones 5 coming as well this summer. It's pretty big summer. We've got Mission Impossible, Barbie, Oppenheimer, a bunch of big stuff coming. I'm also going to be doing more episodes of the re-review show or it's not really re-review show. There's going to be videos coming covering the Indiana Jones franchise in review and as well as the Mission Impossible franchise in review. So stay tuned for those. I'm not going to put myself through a Transformers franchise review because I don't want to waste that many hours. So that's my short review of the Transformers movies. But yeah, you can check those out once they are released. And then, yeah, if you're into video game Let's Play content, I have got my YouTube channel, NoScore Plays, where I primarily play indie games. And I'll occasionally do the like infrequent AAA game. I'm still plowing through Star Wars Jedi Survivor. So if you want to go check that out or any little puzzle indie games, feel free to go check that out. Otherwise, you can find me on Letterboxd and all the socials at NoScore or at NoScore Reviews. Thank you so much again for watching and listening this episode of the NoScore Review Show. Michael, thank you once more. And we'll see you all on the next review. Bye-bye.